Dust swirls around them as the last remnants of ice crack and dissolve. The vault hums with an ancient energy, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. Aiden slowly raises his hands in what he hopes is a universal gesture of peace. Aiden. Hey there. So, before you start throwing us around the room, maybe we can talk? The figure tilts its head slightly, regarding him with unreadable intensity. When it speaks, its voice is deep, layered, as if spoken from multiple mouths at once. Mortal. You have breached the sacred vault of the primordial warden. Give me one reason why I should not unmake you where you stand. Aiden shoots a sideways glance at Dracarys, who looks just as tense but far less nervous. She steps forward, crossing her arms. Dracarys. Because if you try, I will burn you down to your bones, relic. Aiden groans. Aiden muttering. Fantastic. Yes. Let's threaten the ancient warrior god. That'll end well. The warden's eyes flare, the chamber trembling at its power. But it does not strike. Instead, it regards Dracarys with something akin to recognition. Primordial warden. Dracari blood. The flames of your kind once burned across the stars. Yet you stand before me as an exile. Tell me, princess of the lost. His gaze sharpens. Why do you awaken me? Dracarys' posture stiffens slightly, but she does not falter. For once, there is no smirk, no arrogance, just something raw and defiant. Dracarys. I didn't come here to free you. Your prison was already breaking. I simply opened the door the rest of the way. The warden studies her, then slowly shifts its gaze to Aiden. Primordial warden. And you, human? You are not of her kind. You reek of weakness, and yet there is something. His eyes narrow slightly. Something buried within you. Aiden swallows hard. He doesn't know what the warden sees, but the way it stares at him makes his skin crawl. Aiden. I'm just a guy who didn't want to freeze to death outside, so we took shelter here. Now, suddenly, I'm in a staring contest with a space warlord. It's been a weird week. Dracarys shoots him an incredulous look, but the warden chuckles. The sound is deep, like metal grinding against stone. Primordial warden. Your tongue is sharp, mortal. But I see now, you are not merely chance's fool. Fate has touched you. Aiden blinks. Aiden. That sounds incredibly ominous. Dracarys. It is incredibly ominous. Primordial warden. No prisoner leaves this vault without a purpose. You have woken me, now you must decide. Will you accept the burden that comes with this choice? A heavy silence falls over them. Dracarys glances at Aiden, and for the first time, there is something in her eyes: concern. Uncertainty. Aiden clenches his fists, inhaling deeply. He doesn't know what's coming, but he knows one thing for sure. Aiden. I'm getting really tired of ancient beings making cryptic threats. He exhales, then meets the warden's glowing gaze. Tell me what you want. And why I should trust you. The warden's eyes flare brighter. The choice has been made. The negotiation begins. The chamber seems to darken, the flickering blue energy shifting into something deeper, more primal. The warden's presence looms over Aiden and Dracarys, its glowing eyes locking onto them as if peering through time itself. Primordial warden. You are not the first to stand before me, mortal, but you may be the last. Aiden tenses. He has no idea what that means, but he can feel something, some unseen weight settling over him. Dracarys shifts beside him, her tail flicking once in agitation. Aiden. Yeah, see, I don't love that wording. Maybe elaborate before I start panicking? The warden steps forward, raising a hand. Suddenly, the walls of the vault come alive with light, ancient symbols and moving constellations illuminating the darkness. The images shift, forming scenes of war, destruction, and something else. A lone figure, standing amidst the ruins of burning worlds. Primordial warden. Long before your kind set foot among the stars, before even the Dracari forged their empire, there was a power hidden within the fabric of the universe. A force neither light nor dark, either creation nor destruction. Aiden swallows hard, watching as the image changes again, this time showing something eerily familiar. A figure, shrouded in shadow, with golden light burning at its core. Aiden muttering, "Oh great. That kind of looks like." Primordial Warden, interrupting. "You." Aiden's breath catches. Dracarys turns sharply to look at him, her eyes narrowing. Dracarys. Him? No, there must be a mistake. He's just a human. A barely capable one at that. Aiden shoots her a glare. Aiden. Wow. Thank you for the vote of confidence. But the Warden does not waver. Primordial Warden. There is no mistake. The lost flame has returned. And the universe will either rise, or fall because of it. Aiden clenches his fists, his heart hammering against his ribs. Aiden. Okay. Let's say I believe you, hypothetically. What exactly is this lost flame thing? The images shift again, showing a figure wielding a power unlike anything Aiden has ever seen. Energy that is both creation and destruction, light and void. Primordial Warden. The lost flame is the balance between what was and what will be. A force that was once thought erased from existence. If it has reawakened within you, then the war that destroyed the first civilization may yet begin again. Aiden runs a hand down his face. Aiden. Awesome. Love that for me. Dracarys crosses her arms, her expression unreadable. Dracarys. If he really is this lost flame, why now? Why him? The Warden turns to her, as if considering its answer carefully. Primordial Warden. Because something has begun moving in the dark. The same force that once tried to erase the lost flame, now seeks to claim it. A tense silence follows. Aiden exhales slowly, shaking his head. Aiden. So, let me get this straight. Some ancient enemy wants me dead. I apparently have a power I don't understand, and I've been roped into a cosmic war I didn't sign up for. He pauses. Aiden. Did I miss anything? Primordial Warden. Yes. You are running out of time. The vault suddenly trembles, as if something outside is stirring. Aiden and Dracarys exchange a quick, urgent glance. Whatever is coming, they are not ready for it. The tremors subside, but the tension remains thick in the air. Dracarys places a firm hand on Aiden's shoulder, her golden eyes narrowing as she processes what they just learned. Dracarys. If we leave now, we walk away with more questions than answers. And if what this thing says is true, you don't have time to be clueless, Aiden. Aiden exhales sharply, running a hand through his hair. Aiden. Right. Because lost flame and universe-ending war were already making so much sense. The Primordial Warden observes them in silence before turning toward the far end of the vault. The walls shift again, revealing a hidden passageway, lined with runes glowing faintly with the same golden energy seen in the prophecy. Primordial Warden. Beyond this path lies the Chamber of Echoes. There the truth will speak to you, if you are willing to listen. Aiden glances at Dracarys, who merely shrugs. Dracarys. Well, we came this far. Might as well see how deep the madness goes. Aiden sighs and follows her through the passageway. As they step inside, the air changes, the temperature drops, and a strange, pulsing hum fills the space. The walls are lined with floating shards of crystal, each one containing visions of the past locked within their fractured depths. Aiden, whispering, "This place feels alive." Dracarys steps closer to one of the floating shards, watching as images flicker inside, a colossal battle between celestial beings, entire worlds being swallowed by darkness, and a lone warrior standing against impossible odds. The warrior's silhouette is uncannily familiar. Suddenly, one of the shards reacts to Aiden's presence. The golden energy inside erupts, and before he can step back, rocket flash. Rocket. Aiden's vision goes white-hot, and then Aiden stands in a vast battlefield, though his body feels weightless, like he's watching through the eyes of another. The air crackles with a power he doesn't understand but somehow recognizes. Before him, two titanic forces clash. One side is bathed in golden light, wielding weapons that bend reality itself. Their leader, a warrior cloaked in flame, fights at the center, their every move tearing through the shadows like a living sun. The other side is a storm of darkness, shifting and writhing. At its core stands a figure with no face, only a void where light dares not touch. Aiden watches as the warrior, his warrior, fights with everything they have, but it's not enough. A distorted voice, whispering. The cycle repeats, the flame burns, the flame fades, and the dark returns to claim it again. Aiden gasps, clutching his head as the vision shatters around him. Suddenly, he's back in the Chamber of Echoes, collapsed on one knee. Dracarys grips his arm, her face unusually tense. Dracarys. Aiden! What the hell just happened? Aiden blinks rapidly, his breathing uneven. The words still echo in his skull, and for the first time, he feels something stir deep inside him. A power dormant waiting. He looks up at the warden. Aiden, low voice. This has happened before, hasn't it? Primordial warden. Many times. And each time, the flame has failed. A cold dread sinks into Aiden's chest. But before he can say anything else, the chamber begins to shake violently. Something, or someone, knows they're here. And they're coming. Aiden clenches his fists as the chamber shakes around them, the floating shards vibrating violently. A deep rumble echoes from beyond the passage they entered through. Something is coming. But his mind is still reeling from what he saw. Aiden gritted teeth. You said the flame failed before? What if I fail too? Primordial warden. Then the cycle will continue. And the darkness will claim all. Dracarys steps between them, her wings flaring slightly, eyes burning with frustration. Dracarys. Enough riddles! How does he stop it? How does he awaken this so-called flame? The warden extends its hand, and the air crackles with golden energy. The largest floating shard in the chamber begins to pulse, its glow intensifying as a symbol appears on the ground beneath Aiden, an intricate, interwoven sigil that seems to react to his presence. The moment he steps back, it dims slightly. Primordial warden. He must step into the circle and choose to awaken it. But the process is not without risk. Aiden looks at the glowing sigil. He feels the pull, deep in his bones. Something inside him stirs, a power both familiar and terrifying. His breathing quickens. Aiden quietly. What happens if I don't survive? The warden doesn't answer. It doesn't need to. Dracarys crosses her arms, tense. For once, there's no sarcasm in her voice, only concern. Dracarys. You don't have to do this now. We can find another way. Aiden shakes his head. Aiden. If we leave now, we may never get another chance. And if I really am connected to all of this, I need to know. Dracarys doesn't look happy about it, but she doesn't argue. She just exhales sharply and mutters. Dracarys. Fine. But if this kills you, I'm going to be really pissed off. Aiden steps into the circle. Instantly, golden flames erupt around him, not burning him, but coursing through his veins like liquid fire. His vision distorts as memories flood his mind, not just his own, but those of the warriors before him. Battles, sacrifices, death, and above all, failure. But beneath the pain, beneath the fear, there's power. And it's waiting for him to take it. Aiden grits his teeth and reaches into the fire. The golden energy lashes out, wrapping around him, lifting him slightly off the ground as the sigil beneath him blazes brighter. The chamber trembles, but this time, it's not fear shaking the walls. It's something awakening. Then a voice. Not the warden's. Not Dracarys's. But something deeper, older. Whispering, everywhere and nowhere. You are the flame that was lost, but will you burn, or be extinguished once more? Aiden clenches his fists, and with a roar, he pulls the fire into himself. The golden energy implodes in a flash of light. Boom! The golden embers coursing through Aiden's veins pulse with every breath he takes. His senses sharpen, colors more vivid, the air electric against his skin. His heartbeat is steady, but the power within him is anything but. It surges, restless, demanding release. Then boom! The chamber doors explode inward, a shockwave of dust and shattered stone blasting through the room. Aiden instinctively shields his eyes, but through the chaos, he sees it. A figure steps forward. No, shifts forward. Its form is wrong, twisting and unfixed, flickering between solid and spectral like it exists in multiple realities at once. Its limbs stretch at unnatural angles, its face a shifting void of flickering light and writhing darkness. The temperature plummets. Frost creeps along the stone floor, and Aiden can see his breath misting in the air. The golden glow of his veins flickers, destabilized, like the creature's presence alone disrupts the very fabric of reality. Gerkaris moves beside him, muscles coiled. Her wings flare slightly, a subconscious reaction to the sheer wrongness of the being before them. Gerkaris, low, tense. That is not something I want to fight in close quarters. Aiden's fists clench. The fire within him roars in defiance, eager to be unleashed. He can feel it waiting, coiling around his bones like a living thing. But something in his gut warns him, this power is new, unstable. If he pushes too hard, too fast, he might not be able to stop it. Then the creature speaks. Its voice isn't a single sound, it's a chorus, layered upon itself, whispers overlapping, weaving in and out of reality like echoes from a forgotten time. Shadowed figure. The lost flame awakens once more. And yet you do not understand it. You will burn. Just as the others did. A sudden, searing pain lances through Aiden's skull. He staggers, gripping his head as visions explode behind his eyes, memories not his own. Warriors, consumed by golden fire. Their bodies writhing, their screams lost in the inferno as the very power they wielded devoured them. Aiden gasps, his body trembling as the visions fade. The weight of realization crashes down on him. This isn't just power. It's a test. A gamble. If he fails to control it, he won't just die. He'll become something far worse. The creature takes a slow step forward. The space around it warps, distorting like a broken hologram. Gerkaris shifts beside him, tense. She's waiting for his call. They only have seconds to decide. Aiden must choose. Fight now. He channels the flame immediately, pushing his limits to strike first. But if he loses control, the cost could be catastrophic. Retreat and regroup. He resists the temptation, focusing instead on escape. If he can understand this power before using it, he might stand a chance. The enemy moves closer. The air crackles with unnatural energy. Aiden takes a breath. And decides. Aiden doesn't hesitate. The embers within him roar to life, flooding his veins with golden fire. Heat erupts from his core, his breath turning to smoke. He steps forward, his fingers curling into fists, and the flames answer, blazing up his arms like living serpents of molten light. The air around him distorts from the sheer intensity. Gerkaris' eyes widen. Aiden, wait! But it's too late. The shadowed figure lunges, its unnatural form twisting toward Aiden with impossible speed. Tendrils of pure void lash out, dark, writhing things that crackle like lightning yet consume all light around them. The chamber trembles from the sheer force of its presence. Aiden reacts on instinct. He throws out his hands, and the fire surges forward, forming a blazing shield. The darkness collides with the inferno, and for a moment, the entire chamber is engulfed in blinding gold and abyssal black. His body is locked in the fight, but his mind fractures. Flashes of memory, visions buried deep within the flame itself. Warriors before him, wielders of this power, and their ultimate downfall. He sees them consumed, overtaken by the fire's hunger. The whispers of the past claw at his mind, urging him to listen. But there's no time. Aiden grits his teeth. No more visions, just burn! He pushes harder, forcing the fire outward. It responds violently, spiraling into a concentrated beam of destruction aimed directly at the shadowed figure. The creature shrieks. It wasn't expecting this. The fire slams into it, searing through layers of dark energy, forcing it to recoil. But something is wrong. Aiden feels the flames clawing back at him, demanding more, hungering for more than just his enemy. The power isn't his to control. Dracarys grabs his arm, her voice urgent. Aiden! Stop, before it takes you too! A choice stands before him. Aiden keeps pushing, fully unleashing the fire, no matter the cost. Aiden pulls back, fighting for control before the flames consume him. The world comes back in pieces. Aiden's senses return slowly, first the distant hum of the ship's engines, then the sharp scent of scorched metal. His body feels heavy, weighed down by something unseen. His muscles ache, every nerve in his body raw, as if he had been burned from the inside out. A voice pulls him further from the void. Dracarys, low, firm. Wake up, Aiden. His eyes flutter open. The dim, flickering lights of the ship's infirmary cast elongated shadows against the walls. He's lying on a cold metal cot, stripped of his tattered jacket. His arms. He looks down. His veins still glow faintly, golden embers pulsing beneath his skin. The sight of them sends a sharp pang of unease through his chest. The fire inside him is still there, still alive. But it's different now. Quieter. Watching. Waiting. Dracarys stands at the foot of the cot, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. But there's tension in her posture. Her tail flicks, her claws grip at her armored sleeve. She has been waiting. Aiden tries to sit up, but a jolt of pain sears through his ribs. He hisses, falling back. Dracarys. You nearly incinerated yourself. Aiden, groaning. Yeah. I noticed. Dracarys exhales sharply, her amber eyes narrowing. Dracarys. Do you even realize what you did? Aiden meets her gaze. In her eyes he sees more than frustration. There's something deeper beneath it, concern. Fear. Aiden quietly. I lost control. The words taste bitter. He remembers the fire, the overwhelming power, how it had demanded to be unleashed. He had given in, let it consume him. And for a moment, he hadn't been sure if he would ever come back. Dracarys steps closer, her voice softer now. Dracarys. That wasn't just power, Aiden. That was something ancient. And you barely survived it. Aiden exhales, staring at his glowing hands. He remembers the vision, the warriors before him, their bodies burning, their screams lost in the fire. Aiden, whispering. I saw them. The others who had this power. They didn't survive. Dracarys doesn't respond right away. When she finally speaks, her voice is low, serious. Dracarys. Then you have to be smarter than they were. She steps back, tilting her head. Dracarys. So what now? Aiden looks at his hands once more. The embers pulse, as if awaiting his answer. A choice lies before him. To fear the fire, or to master it. He clenches his fists, jaw tightening. Aiden, determined. Now? I learned to control it. Aiden doesn't waste time. He forces himself to move. Dracarys watches him carefully, arms still crossed, her tail flick. Dracarys. You're pushing too hard. Aiden, gritting his teeth. Not hard enough. The golden embers under his skin flicker, as if responding to his resolve. He clenches his fists, inhaling deeply. The fire is still there, waiting beneath the surface. He needs to understand it. Dracarys studies him for a moment before letting out a low sigh. Dracarys. Fine. If you're going to be stubborn, at least train properly. She turns on her heel and strides toward the exit. Aiden hesitates before pushing himself off the cot, his balance unsteady for a second. His body still aches, but there's something else, too, a strange lightness, like energy thrumming through his veins. He follows Dracarys down the dimly lit corridors of the ship. The emergency lighting still flickers from the battle, casting their shadows long and distorted against the walls. The ship is eerily silent, as if holding its breath. Dracarys leads him to a large, open chamber, one of the ship's training decks. Scorch marks mar the metal floor, likely from her own combat practice. The room is vast, its walls lined with various weapons, but Aiden doesn't need any of them. He has his own weapon now, if he can control it. Dracarys turns to face him, arms still folded. Dracarys. All right, human. Show me what you can do. Aiden exhales sharply, rolling his shoulders. His fingers flex at his sides. He knows what he's trying to do, summon the fire on command. But how? Before, it had come in moments of crisis, of desperation. Now, standing here, he realizes how little he truly understands it. Aiden muttering to himself. Come on, how does this work? Dracarys tilts her head, watching. Dracarys. Maybe the problem is that you're thinking. Aiden glances up at her, frowning. Dracarys steps closer, her voice lower now, more serious. Dracarys. You said it yourself, the fire isn't just power. It's alive. You can't just summon it like flipping a switch. She taps two claws against her temple. Dracarys. It's instinct. Trust it. Aiden lets out a slow breath. Instinct. He closes his eyes. He feels for the fire, not as a tool, but as something within him, a part of him. At first, there's nothing but silence. Then, a pulse. A warmth that spreads from deep within his chest, trickling outward like a slow burning ember. It doesn't rush him this time. It doesn't demand. It waits. Aiden exhales, opening his eyes. His hands glow, golden embers curling around his fingers like dancing flames. Dracarys smirks. Dracarys. Now we're getting somewhere. Aiden tightens his fists, watching as the golden embers swirl around his fingers. They flicker and shift, moving almost like liquid light, undulating in waves along his arms. The fire no longer burns painfully, it feels natural, familiar, like breathing. Dracarys steps closer, her slitted amber eyes scanning him carefully. Dracarys. Good. You're not just letting it consume you this time. You're holding the reins. Aiden smirks, exhaling a slow breath. Aiden. Yeah, well, let's hope I don't set the ship on fire. Dracarys flicks her tail, a hint of amusement in her gaze. Dracarys. If you do, you'll be the one explaining it to the maintenance AI. Aiden chuckles, just as a sudden pulse of heat flares in his chest. His smirk fades as his arms tremble slightly. The flames lash outward for a brief second before he forces them back under control. Dracarys narrows her eyes. Dracarys. Your body's still adjusting. Aiden grits his teeth, flexing his fingers as the fire steadies. Aiden. I just need more practice. Dracarys gestures to the center of the training deck. Dracarys. Then let's see what you can do. She steps back, planting her feet firmly as the plates of her dragon-like armor shift against her skin. Her wings remain folded, but there's a quiet readiness in her posture. Aiden raises an eyebrow. Aiden. Wait. You want me to? Dracarys shrugs. Dracarys. Best way to learn is through experience. Before Aiden can protest, Dracarys moves. She's fast. 1 second she's standing still, the next she's lunging forward, a blur of red scales and dark steel. Aiden barely has time to react before her clawed hand sweeps toward him. Instinct takes over. Aiden throws up his arms, and the fire erupts. A pulse of golden energy bursts from his hands, clashing against Dracarys' attack. The impact sends a shockwave through the chamber, forcing them both backward. Aiden stumbles but remains standing. His heart pounds in his chest. Dracarys stops a few feet away, tilting her head with an impressed expression. Dracarys. Not bad, human. Aiden exhales, rolling his shoulders. Aiden. All right. My turn. With a fierce grin, he rushes forward. His fire ignites, swirling around his fists as he strikes toward Dracarys. She meets him head-on, her scaled arms colliding against his flaming punches in a flurry of movement. The air crackles with heat and energy. Either of them hold back. Sparks fly. Flames roar. And for the first time, Aiden feels like he's finally in control. The ship's control deck is in ruins. Sparks rain from scarred with molten streaks. Aiden stands at the center of it all, breathing heavily. Golden his body feels lighter now, as Dracarys, wounded but unyielding, leans against the control panel, one hand. Dracarys. You controlled it. Aiden chuckles. Aiden. Barely. If I pushed any harder, I think I'd be space dust. The ship's AI voice crackles to life, its once malicious tone now neutral, almost obedient. AI system. Main threat neutralized. System integrity at 42%. Course recalibrating. Dracarys glances at the central console, her eyes narrowing as. Dracarys. We're moving again. Aiden steps beside her, scanning the trajectory. A distant star system looms ahead, uncharted, unknown. Aiden. Guess that's our next stop. Dracarys doesn't respond immediately. Instead, she turns to face him fully. The flickering emergency lights cast shadows over her strong yet elegant features, her slitted amber eyes studying him with something different. Dracarys softly. What happens now? Aiden meets her gaze, and for the first time, there's no tension between them. No distrust. No lingering doubt. Just two survivors, standing on the edge of the unknown. Aiden smirks, offering his hand. Aiden. We keep going. Together. Dracarys hesitates, but only for a moment. Then, she takes his hand. Outside the viewport, the damaged ship drifts forward, carried by momentum into the endless sea of stars. The past is behind them. The future? Unwritten. But for the first time in both their lives, neither of them is alone.